One more depending on a prep, and we all look away. People pretending everywhere. It's just another day. There's bullets flying through the air, and they still carry on. We watch it happen over there, and then just turn it off. We must stand together. There's no giving in. Hand in hand forever. That's when we all in. That's when we
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the premiere episode of NWA's Wrestling Roundup right here on NWA SmokyMountain.com. I'm Matt Rhodes, your host, also host of the hit television program NWA's Smoky Mountain TV, which you can see every week on the Tri-Cities CW4 at 12 noon every Saturday afternoon. 30 minutes of the hardest hitting wrestling action you'll find east of the Mississippi River on NWA Smoky Mountain TV. And we have two big guests on the program here today. We're going to be talking to one of my lifelong friends, man that I got started in the wrestling business with, NWA Smoky Mountain senior referee, Illuminati member Brandon Cox. And also we'll be having a conversation with Tony the Dragon Givens as well on this program. Can't wait for that one. Every time Tony's on a program like this, he's, usually anything goes and anything will be said. And I know Brandon Cox is probably a little bit nervous having Tony Givens as well on this program today. And we thank you for joining us for the debut edition of NWA's Wrestling Roundup. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, with more of the Wrestling Roundup in just a second. Wrestling fans, Southern States Wrestling presents a great night of wrestling action Friday night, January the 20th, Kingsport National Guard Armory, Mount Carmel, Tennessee, featuring all your favorite stars of Southern States Wrestling, Bo and Misty Jane, the Southern States Wrestling Television Champion, Scott Sterling, the Big Business Army, the Illuminati, Josh Crawford, Johnny Knievel, and many, many more. Southern States Wrestling, Friday night, January the 20th, National Guard Armory, Mount Carmel. Don't miss it. All right, fans, welcome back to the Wrestling Roundup, NWA SmokyMountain.com. Once again, I'm Matt Rhodes joining you here today, and wrestling fans, we're just a few short days away from the first big event of the year, professional wrestling here in the Mountain Empire. NWA Smoky Mountain presents House Party 2012, and we're going to talk a little bit about that card right now. It's Kingsport Civic Auditorium. Wrestling fans, 8 p.m. bell time for a great night of professional wrestling, which you'll see for the first time that I can ever remember. All four major wrestling promotions in the area will be together under one roof, one night only, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see stars from the Pro Wrestling Federation and stars from SOW, Stars of Wrestling, out of Bristol, Tennessee. And, of course, you'll see some of your favorites from Southern States Wrestling like Handsome Bo James, Scott Sterling, maybe James McCone, many more stars from SSW, and, of course, your all-time favorites of NWA Smoky Mountain. Let's talk a little bit about the card and the main event match. Jason the Gift Kincaid versus Chase Owens for the NWA Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship back in August of this year. Had a classic 2 out of 3 falls matchup that really went down to the wire. Chase Owens come out on top. Now, you're looking at some odd 5 months later. Now, Jason Kincaid has captured the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship, has defended the title pretty much 4, 5, 6 days a week since capturing the title nearly a month ago, including south of the border in Mexico. Defended the championship 3 times, I do believe, in Mexico. Successfully, I may add. So the NWA Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship being defended internationally, and that is one huge step for the NWA Smoky Mountain to the next step of greatness, if you will. The NWA Smoky Mountain has grown in leaps and bounds since its inception last year, from changing over from the Championship Wrestling Alliance, and NWA Smoky Mountain continues to do big things. And I think that in the year of 2012, the NWA Smoky Mountain is going to continue to grow in leaps and bounds with stars like Kincaid, Owens, Keith Knox, the Party Boys, Wayne Atkins, with, already established stars like Tony Givens, Robbie Cassidy, Bo James, and Chris Richards, and many more. And we're not going to leave anybody out. Everybody, it's a team effort. Everybody works hard at the NWA Smoky Mountain. We've seen the return of Thorne, and that brings us to the next match I want to talk about, coming up at House Party 2012 this Friday night. Thorne makes his long-awaited return to the Civic Auditorium. We've seen him come back to the Bus Pit a couple of weeks ago. Their huge TV taping. He had 2 successful matches, and we're going to see him face off with a man, I think personally, in my mind, one of the most underrated talents in the industry today, and has been, in my mind, overlooked as one of the best in the entire world of professional wrestling. That is the Black and Knees Assassin Menace, and these guys are going to have a awesome one-on-one confrontation this Friday night at the Civic Auditorium, and they're no stranger to each other. They've been in the ring before, in tag matches, 6-man tags, and, not that I can remember, these guys have had a one-on-one match, not in Kingsport. This may be the first time it happens, but I tell you what, they're going to tear the house down. And one of the many great matches on the card for this Friday night we'll be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the broadcast, and that's all we're going to talk about right now concerning House Party. We want you to stay tuned. Later on in the program, we'll run down the entire card, break down every match, step by step, and give you a in-depth preview of one of the biggest wrestling events of the year this Friday night in Kingsport, Tennessee, wrestling fans. And just a quick reminder, this is our debut episode, and if you have any questions you'd like to ask any of the NWA Smoky Mountain stars, including myself, here's the email address you can have to get a hold to us. NWA Rhodes, that's my own personal email, at gmail.com. NWA Rhodes at gmail.com. I hope to hear from you wrestling fans, and if you're interested in being a guest on the program, I hope to hear from you as well. We're going to take a quick break, and we're back with NWA Senior Referee Brandon Cox in a moment. Wrestling fans, Southern States Wrestling presents a great night of wrestling action Friday night, January the 20th, Kingsport National Guard Armory, Mount Carmel, Tennessee, featuring all your favorite stars, the Southern States Wrestling, Bo and Missy J, the Southern States Wrestling Television Champion, Scott Sterling, the Big Business Army, the Illuminati, Josh Crawford, Johnny Knievel, and many, many more. Southern States Wrestling, Friday night, January the 20th, National Guard Armory, Mount Carmel. Don't miss it.
Despite the lies that you're making, your love is mine for the taking. My love is just waiting to turn your tears to roses.
Wrestling Roundup, and as I said before the break, we'd be joined to the Wrestling Roundup, and as I promised before the break, we'd be back with current senior referee of the NWA Smoky Mountain, Brandon Cox. And welcome to the program, Brandon.
Thank you, Matt Rose.
4-year pro of professional wrestling. Got your start back in January of 2008 for then Championship Wrestling. And you've been through quite a few changes, including to the CWA era and now NWA Smoky Mountain. And I've known you now for quite a while, Brandon. Even, we got in the business together. And a lot of the things have changed. we've changed. I'd like to think for the better.
Very
Um,
much.
a lot of people have changed and how they act toward us, our lifelong friends,
Yep.
outside of the world of wrestling. But we've seen many things, in this business in a short time. 4 years is not that long, when we have, guys that's been around 15, 20 that can write books, on 1 year in their profession. And we've been around 4, and I feel like I could already write a book of the stories that have happened while we've been on the road, in our young time in this sport. But like I said, 4 year pro of professional wrestling. And how did you get your start in the business? Like I said, you started in 2008, but let's tell the people listening how you got started.
Yeah, I'm at Rhodes. Back in 2006, me and you was actually working at a grocery store that's no longer there, which we both want to forget about that time in our area.
I was working in a grocery store in Upper East Tennessee. That is, well, no longer in existence. That I would like to strangle the man that runs the operations now for me, because I personally dislike him. But that's for another day and another time. But
Yeah,
go
me.
ahead.
Yeah, me too. I actually got fired for threatening to punch a guy. So,
True story.
um, but back in 2006, John Hawkins, Robbie Cassidy, Chris Richards, and Bolo actually invited me and you and another one of our friends, Michael Gwynn, to an event in Kingsport with Chris Richards. Steve Fury was wrestling Heidenreich and Josh Cody at the
Oh, I
time.
remember that night.
And it was our first time ever being at I don't know, one of my first time ever being to a an independent wrestling event. I've been to see the WWE, TNA a couple of times. But we, after that first event, we got hooked, and we actually started coming more, and we was there every week. We sat in the same place. Then in 2008, I got an email from John saying, "Hey, would you and Matt like to come be a part of our ring crew?" And we said yeah, and then we started in January of 2008. Actually, the event coming up Friday night is going to be our 4 year anniversary of being there. I remember we put up the ring, and I hated that ring to death to put up. It was the worst ring in the world I've ever put up in my life. I'm so glad we got another ring. And then we worked security at that event, and it was a life-changing experience for me. Nonetheless, I've met a lot of people in the wrestling. And I know you have too, Matt Rhodes. And actually, my brother is a referee now, and he's getting pretty good. He's never going to be as good as me, but also, I try to bring him in the way we were brought in, and that's actually, paying your dues. Putting up the ring, hanging posters, doing stuff that the veteran asks you to do, and if the veteran asks you to do something, you do it.
You say
And
yes, sir, too.
you don't, smart off to them, um, and stuff like that. And people breaking in now. That's the biggest thing that I have the biggest gripe about right now is people that just is not respectful, and don't pay their dues, and don't put up the ring and thinks they're superstars when they've been in the business less than a year.
You make a valid point, Brandon Cox, and I think that's a problem throughout the entire industry of professional wrestling. And that's like you talk about paying dues. That's how a lot of these old time guys got to where they're at in the business by paying their dues. Note, the old veterans noticing how hard people worked. While if they were setting up a ring, or if they were working at a concession stand, it didn't matter. And now, like you said, there's a lot of good talent coming in the door, and there's a lot of bad talent coming in the door, and there's also a lot of good talent coming in that don't seem to want to pay their dues, as in the days we broke in, and even before that, and it is sad, and it's just part of the way wrestling is changing, and not for the better, in my opinion. But you make a very valid point there, Brandon Cox. And along with paying dues, and when you're technically called a rookie in professional wrestling or you're getting your start, there also comes a ginormous amount of ribs, and your brother's experiencing that right now, and you still experience it a lot more than I do to this day. But in that first year you're getting broke in, you're going to come across a lot of hardcore ribs. Because a lot of the guys, get their, laughs by doing this. And one in particular we want to talk about, I want to ask you about, is the infamous eyebrow incident from Thanksgiving night at the National Guard Armory in 2008. Not a lot of people know this story. A lot of wrestlers in our locker room now don't know this story. But why don't you tell them about it, Brandon? It's pretty intriguing.
It all started about the week before Thanksgiving. Myself, Chase Owens, Tony Divins, Cody Isis, and Bo James went on one. Let's just say Bo was a little intoxicated, and he started asking me who I could fight and who I could beat up in the car. Normally, I said probably Cody Isis, but
Boy,
so
Cody Isis is not listening to this.
So no, he was there, so he knows the story. So he was there, and he, we got it. Then they asked me different people, and then that came up to you, and I was like, yeah, I can whoop Matt Rhodes' ass. It was my exact words, and they're like, well, let's call Matt Rhodes. Well, they called you, and it started.
And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, it started, and like I said, people were a little intoxicated, and yeah. But, so we were supposed to fight, and then naturally me and you talked before going there. And John Hawkins, we told him what was going on because he's the one that did break us in.
He rode with us that night.
Yeah, he rode with us that night.
I'll never forget that either.
And, stories were mixed up. Don't know what was said, but John Hawkins thought me and you were lying to him, which, like I said, I don't know what was said to him. I wasn't back there. I was in the ring. He was out there calling the matches. And I asked him a question, and he got all mad, and he just headbutted me, and it cut me up open about 2 inches above my eyebrow, and cut me pretty bad. And I had to go home and super glue my eye, back, and put the steri strips, and so now I've got like a 2-inch scar that goes underneath my eyebrow.
Yeah, well, me and you rode home the other night. John found another ride back to good old Carter County in Elizabeth and that, and I don't know who he rode with, and at the time I really didn't care because I was pretty bad, but I didn't let it show. I didn't want to get in a fight with John Hawkins because I don't know if that'd be a fight I'd win, but nonetheless, coming out to my car, everything was tore down in the building. I had changed, all the promos were done, and your eye's doctored up. At that point you had like a little piece of tape on it keeping it from bleeding. We go out to the car, and John was pretty inebriated that night. Decided to take all of his and Chris Richards and that empty beer bottles. And when you talk Chris Richards and empty beer bottles, it's a lot. I'm not talking about 1 18-pack. I'm talking about 2. And dumped them all over the floorboard of my Jeep. And I was, I guess a little steamed is an understatement. But, at the time we hadn't been in the business that long. And it wasn't, my place to confront him. It was, a part of, being brought up, in the business the hard way, being ribbed. And so therefore, I shrugged it off and I didn't put it over, and everything was fine and dandy after that. And well, what a night that was, a night I definitely don't want to remember, but we'll never forget. Well, now that we've got the eyebrow incident out of the way, moving right along, once again joined by senior referee of the NWA Smoky Mountain, Brandon Cox. And Brandon, I want to ask you a couple of questions. As many people know, you've been a referee now for quite some time, nearly 4 years now. And it was interesting. Side note, we was talking during the little break we just took about how it took you 7 months, to train and get in the ring when you see a lot of people now come along and train maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and get in there. Share your comments on that.
Yeah, like you said, Matt. It was 7 months. We went all the way to July before I was actually ever even asked if I wanted to do anything else besides, ring crew, hanging up posters, stuff like that. I know after a couple of months, you started announcing and doing, stuff like that. I actually think
I'll tell the story on that in a second.
You started in Greenville, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell the story on that in a second.
But it was in July. We were, I can't remember what the date was. But I know it was in July, and Bo James called me and says, "Hey, do you want to referee? Do you want to learn how to referee?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I know me and Tony Evans, we becoming friends. Then I was, helping him, hanging up posters, helping promote, doing a lot of backstage, behind the curtain, stuff for the events. And me and him talked about actually me and him, reffing, after the Fun Fest event, starting reffing after that. And so Bo kind of actually, said, "Hey, come down. You and Matt Rhodes, you come down to Morristown, the Armory, and we'll show you. You basically know what you're doing. Let's just show you, all the finer points, and basically just train me that day." On how to ref, which I would like to have more time to train because I was a nervous wreck, and I did that whole event by myself. It was like a 6-7, match card, and I did every match by myself. But that was actually the first time ever, reffing. But and I've been doing it ever since. Like you said, 4 years. Have over 1,000 matches. That's a whole lot more than a lot of people have in careers. Here nowadays, I go, 3-4 nights a week. I get in the car and, drive down the road Thursday nights. I do every Thursday night in Seymour, Tennessee for UWA. Every other Friday night I go down to Pigeon Forge for KFW. Every other Sunday we go over the mountains to Asheville for Smoky Mountain Championship Wrestling. And then, we do the local, events. NWA Smoky Mountain, Southern States Wrestling. I've been down to Johnson City and done some stuff down in Johnson City a couple of times. So, it adds up when you're actually on the road. I actually had a guy ask me the other day, how do you have so many matches in so, little time? I'm like, I'm booked. I go. Even if I'm not booked, I asked whoever's going on the road at the time, hey, can I tag along? Maybe get a booking out of it. And, 9 times out of 10, the promoters, will say, yeah, come on and come ref. We know who you are. That's the good thing, about being, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm
good to have confidence in yourself.
Yeah, I think I am pretty good. And, a lot of people, especially down in the Knoxville area where I go a lot, they watch us on the internet, on our internet, on the TV show, and they, every time I go into the building, they're like, "Can you ref my match? Can you ref my match?" And so
there's a lot of good workers in the Knoxville area, but the problem with Knoxville is there's too many crap promotions down there that water things down and hurt the actual good talent down there in Knoxville. And I always love going down there and working as well in the Knoxville area. But Knoxville wrestling isn't what it used to be. I personally think the wrestling scene in Kingsport's a lot stronger than it is in Knoxville right now. And you talked about going night in and night out on the road refereeing, how you get so many matches. One thing you failed to mention, a lot of times, and I've been a referee before, in some other towns outside of the area, a lot of times you're the only ref there. So you're reffing 7-8 matches a night, and then if it's a TV taping or something, it could be even more.
Yeah, that's true. I remember one time a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember this or not, I actually did 75 matches in 1 week. I know we had an event in Bristol. It was a TV taping. That was like a 20-match card. The booker did not book our other ref, Smoke Harbor, at the time. He had something going on. So I ended up having doing 20 matches that day. And then we had,
This is pre-Austin days.
This is very pre-Austin days.
Yeah.
And then we went and did the Morristown shot, and then me and Robbie Cassidy, Tony Givens, and Chase Owens went to West Virginia. I think we went to Huntington that day. And
Lord.
if you've ever been to Huntington, they have 100 matches on a Sunday, and they do 6 months worth of TV tapings, and
I've
I
been
did
there.
20, 30 matches, that day, and it was actually added up to 75 matches that week. So
I promise I'll tell you the story about how quickly I got started in announcing. When I first started in, this business, I did not see myself as an announcer. I had no problem being in front of people because a lot of people don't know this. When I was younger, my mom and dad had a Southern gospel singing quartet, and I went on the road with them a lot, and also played music and sang with them. So I was used to being in front of crowds of 500 people or 1,000 people. From when I was 6 years old, that doesn't bother me. I never seen myself as an announcer. I always wanted to be a wrestler, and like I said, that never worked out. And I was in Greenville. It was the third event I ever worked for Tony Givens. The first two were the Kingsport Civic Auditorium, was that January house party, and then the War Games the next month, which was the record-breaking attendance for the Civic Auditorium for Tony Givens in that building. I think it was over 550 paid that night. It was a great night. But third event I ever worked, Greenville, Tennessee. Tony, if you've never been around Tony Givens, when he's coming into a building and getting prepped for one of his towns that he's booking, you trust me, you don't want to be around Tony Givens in that time. He's all over the place. He's here one minute, he's there the next. You cannot get his attention. And I love the guy to death, and I hope he's not taking this the wrong way. But he come in, and he at the time didn't have a sound man, so he was bringing the sound equipment, and trying to get the ring set up, and it's a hectic job. You're the promoter. You've got to make sure this stuff gets done right. And he looked at me, and he had no idea that I knew anything about musical or sound equipment. He goes, "Hey, kid," he says, "you know how to," I think he called me "hey, kid." He said, "You know how to, set up a sound system." I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I can figure it out." I wasn't trying to tip off that I know too much about it. So about 10 minutes later, I had it set up and running, music playing. He said, "You really get this set up?" I'm like, "Yeah." He went, hey, buddy, you want to do some ring announcing for me tonight? And I guess what had happened, I think he had Marty Ricker booked, and Marty had to work because I think at the time he was working for a radio station in Greenville, and Marty couldn't make the town, and it was in his own town. Or he was late that night, that's what it was. He was late. So I started ring announcing, and Tony had a TV crew there. And so I ring announced that first event in a security shirt and blue jeans. And the rest is history. So 4 weeks into the sport, I was already had a gig as a ring announcer, and Tony thought I did a good job, and decided to leave me there. And the first event I ever called live was Fun Fest 2008. Huge crowd at the Civic Auditorium, and for that to be the first event I've ever called was, an honor indeed. And truly, I was nervous as all get out because there was a lot of people there, a lot of promoters from across the United States. Where Burt Prentice was there, a few other people, and I was nervous, as all get out. Here's all these wrestling promoters here, this big crowd, big television crew here, and I had never seen this before, as far as a TV crew and stuff like that. So yeah, I was nervous that night, but that's the story about that, not to bore people. But I ask you about, I want to know, I ask you about, how you got started in the business, and like I said, you've had over, how many matches you say you'd had?
over 1,000.
Over 1,000
matches as a
matches,
referee.
and you have to have, there has to be a favorite somewhere in your mind as a referee, because not only you're refereeing, you're also now venturing into the wrestling side of the sport. There is such thing called wrestling these days, but yeah, you're actually becoming a wrestler. Working a lot for Southern States Wrestling. But your favorite match as a referee?
This is actually a hard one. When we were going over some stuff earlier, and I just I don't know what matches. But the one match that really sticks out is one of my all-time favorite two that I refed was Brian Logan and Robbie Cassidy. I think it was in May of 2009 or 2010.
May of 2009.
I believe.
When Robbie won the title, right?
Yeah, when Robbie won the title. That was my first time actually reffing a big match of a world title of
Yeah, it was the former
match.
AWA World Heavyweight Championship turned or CWA World Title.
So yeah, that was my first time ever reffing a big time match, and I got got hit that match, and eventually that's when Robbie went to the other guys, the PWF guys.
Yeah, we can say their names now. Their business is good.
Yeah. I like those guys. Well, most of those guys.
Some of those guys in there are really good guys.
Yeah, I like some of their guys. 99% of their guys. I like. I don't have any heat with anybody in particular, and with some
There's one that has that don't like you for some reason. I don't even think he knows who you are. But
I've never met the guy before.
But for sake of not getting anything started, but all the main guys in there, in PWF, and at the time, when they come in, that was an electric night, in the Civic Auditorium, and nobody expected it. And I, not try to give too much away, before I went on that night, before I stepped through the curtain, Tony Gibbons come to me and whispered in my ear. He says, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He says, there's going to be something happen at the end of the night, that's going to blow your mind. And I want you to give it your, natural reaction. And I had no earthly idea what it was, because at the time, Southern States Wrestling and CWA had split. Bo had went his separate way, and a lot of heat there. But no, I did not expect it at all. And I didn't have any idea who was going over in the match. I was just calling the match. Mike Cooper was the color commentator that night, and he was just as shocked as I was. And I probably said some not so nice words. Probably some foul language was used. But you got my natural reaction, and I think you got your natural reaction as well, because I don't think you were told about it.
No, I wasn't.
Very few details.
They just told me somebody was coming. That's all that was told to me, that somebody was coming. And actually, at the time, I didn't even know who these guys were. I mean, I knew, Johnny Knievel, Josh Crawford, Alex Payne, but the rest of their guys, I had no clue who they were.
We knew who they were, and because everybody had words, and they would fire something to try to bury us, and we'd fire something to try to bury them. They were just trying to jockey for position and draw more people. And that's what we were trying to do as well. And a lot of bad things were said about one another during the time. A lot of things said that I regret. A lot of things I know some other people say that they regret. But at the time, it was good for business. Mm-hmm. And because we were missing a lot of guys. A lot of bad things happened. Not to go into detail, but a lot of bad things had happened. And with this, it really sent a shockwave through, wrestling in the Mountain Empire, and the match itself was very good. Brian Logan, Robbie Cassidy, and Logan worked his tail end off in that match.
Mm-hmm. Both Robbie and Logan,
including a Frankensteiner.
Yeah,
he did a Frankensteiner in that match, and a lot of people have bad things to say about Brian Logan, and he's not my favorite person, but he could have a heck of a match, and he's good in the ring. Of course, he was in WWE for years, but in Smoky Mountain, but he's bad for business behind the curtain, and
definitely.
A lot of people say that, and that's also my opinion, but that's also the opinion of a lot of people, coming out of the Mountain Empire.
Also, Matt Rhodes, another match that I did a couple months ago was when the Shikara guys came down to Kingsport and did their event down here. I got to ref one match during that one match during that card, and I was actually very nervous for that, because that was to me, they're one of the big ones. Further north, a lot of their guys work for ROH and some of the bigger companies up north.
Mm-hmm.
So I refed Chase Owens and Archibald Peck. That was another one of my matches that one of my favorite matches doing. If you like you said, if you don't know Tony Givens, he is very critical on a lot of stuff. Even if you think you're doing good, he'll say, hey, here, do this better, do this better. This is what you need to do better. Like I said, I've had over 1,000 matches, and that match, he actually come to me and goes, good job. Very proud of you. That's the very first time he's ever done that. And like I said, I've had 1,000 matches and didn't have one complaint. Also, Mike Quackenbush and the referee, they didn't have any complaints. They said I did a great job. So
that was one of the matches. The rope broke in that match.
Yeah.
And you made Botchamania.
I did make Botchamania.
And a lot of people know of Botchamania on YouTube. Brandon Cox made Botchamania.
Yeah.
And he's one of only 2 people in the NWA Smoky Mountain to do that. Chase Owens, yeah. Who's the other one?
Tony Givens.
Oh, that's right. Tony. Oh, yeah, the concussion.
Yeah.
From the tag match with
Yeah.
him and Robbie versus Tom Pritchard, and who else? I can't remember who else was in that
I
tag
can't
match.
remember either.
Was when the infamous Tony spilt through the ropes and that sick thud on the floor.
Yeah.
Ouch. But
So,
yeah,
yeah,
3
I made
people
Botchamania.
Botchamania, and boy, and Brandon wears that proudly. And but it wasn't his fault. The rope broke. The fans loved it. I wasn't there at night, but I
Yeah.
seen it on tape, and the fans were eating that up. The rope broke twice that night at Chikara Pro when they came to Kingsport. Well, that was your favorite matches, I guess, as a referee. Now, you've been wrestling for a little while. You've wrestled several matches here in 2011. Your favorite match as a wrestler?
As a wrestler, back a couple weeks ago on Christmas night, Matt, when me and you and Violet Adams stepped in the ring with the Booty Woody Man Jimmy Valiant and Misty James. He's a WWE Hall of Famer, and we actually got to step in the ring with him. It was a very honor to step in the ring with him and to wrestle him, even though I did come up on the losing end. Got put to sleep.
And
Don't know what happened with you or Violet at Matt Air, but I just remember me getting choked out in the middle of the ring. So,
well, you won't underestimate Boogie's age anymore.
No.
But yeah, I'll agree with you there. I've had probably 10 matches in 4 years, and most of them come in 2011, and I think 3 of them was for Bo at Southern States, and the other 7 was up there for KC Thunder and Asheville, including the street fight that I'd like to forget about. But
also, Matt, another match. I got to wrestle with a good up and comer. I don't know how long he's been, in the business. That's Cody Blade. Me and him actually had a pretty good match over in Hickory Tree a couple weeks ago. And also, I don't know if you remember our very first match. I had was that announcer referee
The
battle
Battle
royal
Royal.
where me and you just whipped the shit out of the whole PBF, staff.
the infamous night of the Muay Thai knees.
Yeah,
Sizemore.
I busted Dylan Sizemore's nose.
Man,
At the
what a-
time, I didn't feel bad, but now I do feel bad.
Well, at the time, I guess I really, and I like Dylan, a lot. And at the time, I really liked him a whole lot. And he had a lot of, I seen he had a lot of potential as an announcer back then. That was 2009, and he's come a long way. And we had a lot of fun in that one. And we had a good finish there where I actually picked him up and trying to throw him over the top rope. And for one, I couldn't believe I picked somebody up. And 2, that went off without a hitch, but that was fun. And most of your matches you've had, I've been involved at
Yeah.
some point. Either I've been in the ring with you or been ringside with you managing, other than
Yeah.
I think your trip to West Virginia where you wore a mask.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had like 3 matches and ref 4 and did other stuff. And
But yeah, I thought the tag team match Christmas night was it was indeed an honor to be in the ring with Jimmy Valiant. But it was good to be in the ring. We got the business together, and to be in that match on Christmas night, was a good thing, and I enjoyed it, and I'll remember it for many years to come, and I know you will as well.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know me and you actually we kind of grew up together. I remember your parents used to come to the church I was going to at the time, where and you all used to come about once, twice a month, and
Yeah, we used to show up, set up our equipment, and have our singing quartet, and we'd sing where Brandon went to church, and then we ended up working at the same place together, and for a couple years, and then we got started in wrestling.
Yep.
But it's been a long road, and
Yeah.
um, I remember I love looking back at pictures with you and with hair and
I
laughing.
know me with hair.
um,
Yeah,
Believe it or not, a long time ago, you actually had full head of hair.
I
I'm
did.
talking about hair down to your shoulders.
I did.
And
I
no
looked
no
like
bald spot either.
I
And
look like my little brother now. He's like 13, 14, something like that.
I
don't
rib
remember
Austin
how.
all the time. I'm like, you're
Yeah,
going to lose your hair
he's already
sooner
starting
or
to get a bald spot.
Yeah,
And
he's
not
already
liking
starting to
it.
get it. And I told him by senior year of high school he'd lose all his hair, but he made it out of high school. But it won't
Yeah.
be much longer. But next thing we'll move on to, and we'll wrap up, is in case you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard, which I know you've heard about this. Tony Givens went on another program that's getting its start here in the Mountain Empire. Stephen Hammer's little podcast he's doing, Let's Talk Wrestling, and was interviewed, and he said, and I'm going to quote minus the foul language he used. Um, he said, one, he didn't train you, and two, he says you do not belong in the wrestling ring. Your comments and thoughts on one of your best friends going on another program and saying you do not belong in a wrestling ring as a wrestler.
It's okay, Matt. You know, like I told you the other day when we actually talked on the phone about this, I actually, and I told him this same thing too. So, and that is his opinion. He's actually told me this to his face, so it's not like he's going behind my back and telling, you know, something. He's made this very vocal to me. But opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Um, I'm not the best, at wrestling. Probably never will be. But I'm getting better. My first actual real match was against Lucas down in Hickory Tree, and it wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't as good as Tony Givens wanted it to be. So after that, he just was like, oh, whatever. And like I said, he's got an opinion, but I'm going to prove to him sooner or later that I'm going to prove him wrong.
Well, that's a great way to be, but you've had a lot of things hold you back from really becoming as good as I know you would like to be. I know a couple of years ago you had an accident. Your leg got crushed. You was changing a tire, I think, on the side of the road, if I remember correctly, and the guy, old man, just crushed your leg, run into your car, and you've had some setbacks. You've had knee surgery, from when you was a football player. And that hurts, when you're especially when you're in the wrestling ring, and you can ask Robbie Cassidy, you know, as he recently had back surgery, it affects you in the ring. But I think with time, you can overcome that, and of course you re-aggravated that knee, back on Thanksgiving night at the Armory in a battle royal.
Yeah.
And I know that's another sore subject to you because of some things that happened afterwards.
It is, but I'm this for a fact that I'm very hot-headed,
Yeah.
and especially after I'm competing, like you said, I did play football. I also played basketball, wrestling, and track in high school. I've been an athlete and doing athletic stuff since I was 4 years old. So I'm very competitive and very, hot-headed about stuff. That is also my biggest downfall. But like you said, the car wreck happened, not this past October, but the October before that. I was changing a tire. I was in a parking lot, and at a church actually down in Piney Flats, and this drunk driver pulled in and crushed me between my car and his car, and luckily I have pretty big legs. Like I said, I've been playing sports since I've been 4 years old, and back in high school I lived in the weight room. It was and I also played a semester of college football, and then I just came home, and that's when I actually started working at White's, where I re-met Matt Rhodes, and we started.
We revealed the name now.
Yeah,
dang it!
It's
Why'd
okay.
you put him over for?
But it's okay. But it crushed all the muscles around my leg. The tendon that goes from your kneecap or the bottom of your knee to your hamstring, that was some of it was tore. I was in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. My blood pressure was so high from the injury, but luckily it did not break any bones. The doctor said if the guy would have been going a little bit faster and my lead would have been smaller, it would have crushed my femur. If anyone knows about Piney Flats and Bristol to the hospital, it's 20-minute drive. The ambulance got me there in less than 10 minutes. Siren on. They lost me one time. They had to bring me back. It was a bad situation. It took me, 4.5 months to learn how to rewalk. I missed a lot of big, events for NWA Smoky Mountain. I missed our whole thing we did in Morristown because of it. I missed a lot last year because of, an idiot, that wanted to drink in the middle of the day and hit me. So, that's what I have to say about that. But, that was, a bad time in my life. Not going to say what else was going on there, but touchy situation. But I'm back now. I'm 100% and looking forward and moving forward. 2012 is going to be a good year for us.
So no heat with Tony Givens.
No heat with Tony Givens.
Well,
but I am going to prove him wrong.
He's very vocal about things. It don't matter who it is. I mean, he will say whatever he thinks, and if you like it, oh well. If you don't like it, he'll tell you to kiss him between the back pockets. But yeah, very very vocal about you in the wrestling ring, and about how he don't think that you'll be a success in wrestling, and also saying that he will never book you on any of his events ever again. And I think he'll hold true to that for now until he needs somebody again.
Again, yeah.
And then
he
the next time he
time.
needs you,
But I mean, it's okay. I don't have any heat with anybody. Here lately, I've been taking some classes to help with my hot-headedness. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm very calm than I was a couple months ago, and a lot of people didn't actually see that. But I am going to say, if I get pushed too much farther, it's going to be bad.
Well, that's Brandon Cox, and thanks for joining us here. And don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to run down the card for House Party, which will take place this Friday night at the Kingsport Civic Auditorium, and we'll talk more about that. We're back, more Wrestling Roundup in a moment.
Looking for the hottest wrestling on the net? NWA Smoky Mountain is here for you. Get all the latest info on upcoming events, news, NWA merchandise, and much more on our website at NWASmokyMountain.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/NWA Smoky Mountain. And also follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/NWA Smoky MG.
Cox and once again Matt Rhodes, and joined today by special guest Brandon Cox. And we was going to try to get Tony Gibbons on the phone, but we don't have enough time on the program to do that. Well, we will get Tony on very soon, and maybe some more remarks about him towards you on his insight into you getting in the ring. I'm sure he'll have some comebacks for what you just said a moment ago. But this Friday night, January 6th, King Sports Civic Auditorium, it's House Party 2012, first big event of the year for the NWA Smoky Mountain. We got, I think, 8 big matches already on the card. We're going to go over some of those today. For the first time ever, all 4 major promotions from the Mountain Empire under one roof. You want to see stars, of course, from the NWA Smoky Mountain, all your favorites. Southern States Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Federation, and Stars of Wrestling from Bristol. And, this time last year, if you'd asked me if this would happen, I would have probably give you a heck no on that. And this time this year, it's happening. And one of the first big matches we're going to talk about is Stars of Wrestling being represented at House Party 2012, as we're going to see the return to the Civic Auditorium for O-Dog, and he's going to team up with Michael Starr to take on Big Pimp James and a guy that the fans of NWA Smoky Mountain are familiar with, Skylar Cruz, and a big tag team match. Brandon?
I've not really got to see a lot of these guys wrestle in the past, so I really don't have an opinion on this match. So it should be a toss-up. The only one I've seen wrestle really is Skylar Cruz. Good
You've
young
seen
kid.
O-Dog before.
I've
O-Dog's
seen
been
him,
in
but
before
not
for
a
Tony
lot.
Several times.
I've not seen a lot. I've seen him some, but I've not seen a lot.
O-Dog, was a regular back in 05, 06.
Yeah.
As wrestling goes, people can coexist, and there's always things that happen, and people go their own separate ways and whatnot, and try to make their promotion the best. They think they're the best, and I respect them for that. And so of course they're going to say bad things about the competition because they're trying to be the best. And O-Dog is teaming up with Michael Starr, who I've never seen in action before. Big Pimp James, I think I've seen once. And Skylar Cruz, I've seen a lot of him before. And don't know where Gavin Daring is former tag partner, Air America. But he'll be teaming up with Big Pimp James. I'm sure Bobby McElrath somewhere drooling over Skylar Cruz being back in the NWA Smoky Mountain.
Forget that guy.
Big goofball. But that's Bobby McElrath's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
And I'll make time for him somewhere. I'm going to ask Bo James about Bobby McElrath when I interview Bo here in a couple weeks. Next match, Bulldozer versus Lucas Angel. And I'm going to tell you something. Bulldozer may have lost a couple of weeks ago to Chase Owens on television, but there has, I don't think, ever been a guy get more established in losing a match in this organization's history than the Bulldozer got established on TV a couple of weeks ago. That guy established himself as a dominant force to be reckoned with in NWA Smoky Mountain, and he faces a guy that established himself as a dominating force when he first got his start in Lucas Angel. And Lucas has kind of fell by the wayside. And since, I guess, his walk on the good side, if you will, as a good guy in the eyes of the fans, Lucas Angel hasn't been as successful. But he's going to get a opportunity to pick up a win against the Bulldozer this Friday night at the Civic Auditorium. But that's going to be a very tall task for Lucas Angel. A rubber match, if you will. Your buddy Jeff Conley taking on the wrestling extraordinaire Sigmund, and these guys have met the past 2 times NWA Smoky Mountain's been at the Civic Auditorium, and Sigmund's won the previous 2 meetings. So Jeff Conley's asked for one more match, and you got if you got to think, if Sigmund wins here, Conley falls all the way to the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, no more chances, for Conley to try to get matches with Sigmund or any of the top guys. You got to go down. You got to work your way back up. But if Conley wins, he's going to establish himself in there with the top guys of NWA Smoky Mountain.
Going back to the Bulldozer Lucas match, And me being the heat seeker, I think Lucas has gotten soft since going to the good side. Since getting, kicked out by the Knights of the Round Table then when,
Yeah.
we joined to form the
we've-
Illuminati.
We've seen the
Bulldozer
changes.
is a huge guy. I actually know a girl that grew up with Bulldozer growing up, and he was always been that big. And then going to the Jeff Conley-Sidman match, I think Jeff Conley has bit off more than he can choose in this match. I think Sidman is, basically just feels disrespected that Conley would have asked for another match after he's just done beating twice.
Well, last time, in the Civic Auditorium, Sigmund beat him clean. There wasn't no underhanded tactics, no pulling of the tights, no using the ropes. So, this time it's going to be definitive, either way in what happens. Match I'm looking forward to. Legit Dynamite against the Party Boys for the Tag Team Championships. Wayne Atkins has been in and out as of late, since making his, return. Coming back for the Tag Team Championships. And once you win those Tag Team titles, you pretty much say, hey, I'm back full time. The Party Boys are ready for that. We know Keith Knox is a regular in NWA Smoky Mountain, but is Wayne Atkins ready for that? But you've got to win the match first, and Legit Dynamite's a heck of a tag team.
Yeah, I've actually been down at KFW where I go every other Friday. Both the Party Boys are there, and they've been looking good here lately. Wayne looks in top shape. Big Keith not, he's jacked as ever. But on this one, I'm going to go with Legit Dynamite on this one.
Yeah.
They're the
I
tag
think Wayne Atkins
champions.
would be disappointed in his goat
I
for
know.
picking the
I
Legit
know,
Dynamite there.
but Derek and Bubba, I like Derek and Bubba. They're two tough boys from West Virginia.
There's
Yeah.
a side story to the goat thing.
Yeah, there is a size,
No.
but that's for another day. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'm going with Legit Dynamite here.
Well, you've kind of turned this thing into make your pick like it's NFL on the ESPN or something. But Legit
you
Dynamite.
got this one.
Legit Dynamite. Legit Dynamite. Well, I mean, they are Illuminati, but it's hard to tell. I mean, these guys are talented tag team, and I overlooked the match here going up from the card. PWF talent going to be in action. Daniel Mulligan, the hillbilly heartthrob as he's called down there, against Cody Blade.
I like Cody. Me and him had a match down in Hickory Tree a couple, weeks ago. He beat me 4 times. But, a great
That's pretty
kid.
embarrassing.
It is, but you know what? This kid was a great kid. Very respectful kid. I like him, but I think the big man's gonna win this one. Molden, he's huge.
Yeah, and he needs to win facing Jimmy Valiant a little bit later in the month.
Yeah, I think
So,
the next
January 14th. I
yeah,
think,
they're
for
gonna be down in
PWF at Rogersville
PWF
Armory.
in Rogersville. Jimmy Valiant's gonna be there. Him and Misty's teaming up once again. They've beat us. Against
Mulligan and Ashley Hope.
someone else. So we're not gonna mention any
Oh, I
names
don't
on
care.
that one.
Ashley Hope is the person in question there.
Yeah.
I don't care to mention her. I don't hate Ashley, but in fact, I've always liked her, and that's another topic for another day, another time.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened, but that's another thing. But you might as well just put it out there. But
I don't
moving
have
on,
any heat with anybody.
But moving on, we're going to see Menace and Thorn. And I said you wasn't on here earlier when I was talking about this match. I said Menace is a overlooked talent in the area. Not a lot of people talk about him, but I think throughout the whole professional wrestling industry, he is one of the best competitors in the industry. But a lot of people don't give him credit where credit's due.
Go back down to KFW a couple weeks ago. We'll go to the main event match here in a little bit. In my opinion, Chase Owens is one of the number 1 and number 2 top guy in the area,
Mm-hmm.
bar none. He's
Talking
got
about Menace.
Chase Owens
Chase.
is.
Well, we're talking about Menace and Thorn.
I know. I'm getting there, Matt Rhodes. But I tell you what, him and Chase Owens had a great match, and Menace took Chase to the limit a couple weeks ago.
Well, no offense to Chase. Menace has had a lot more matches than Chase. Has been around a lot longer. So I'm going to give, on the rankings list, I would put Menace ahead of Chase any day of the week, and Chase is great. But Menace, I think, is a fine talent. He don't get the recognition that he deserves. And Thorne, the man's been under the radar for quite some time, and he's making his return to the Civic Auditorium. Should be a great match. So now we talk about the main event for the the semi-main event. Let's not forget that 6-man tag. Who would ever thought you'd have seen this combination? Bo James, Johnny Knievel, and Josh Crawford in the Civic Auditorium against the Illuminati, Chris Richards, Tony Givens, and Nick Hammonds. It is a odd match I never thought I would see happen, but a lot of hatred here, and big fight broke down after the Christmas night Star Wars. You were in the back. I wasn't. I was pretty much getting thrown around all over the floor by, being manhandled and double teamed by Josh Crawford and Johnny Knievel, and even Bill Dundee hitting me in the back of the chair. It was a wild scene, and it led up to this match. And I don't think, as Bo said after Christmas, it's not going to be a match. It's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some bloodshed. I think whoever refs this match, whoever you assign this match, is you're in charge of ref assignments. And I'm pretty sure you probably won't take this match.
I'm actually going to take this match, Matt Rhodes.
Okay. Well, you may take this match.
I'm going to take this match.
Well, we've then decided that right now. Brandon Cox has assigned himself this match.
And you know what? That might be the only match I do all night.
It's hard to tell, but he's already decided he's going to take this match. And if I'd have been in your shoes, I'd give this match to Smoke Carver, because I don't think I'd want to be in the middle of a war that's going to take place. And the main event, Chase Owens versus Jason Kincaid for the NWA Smoky Mountain Championship, with Robbie Cassidy as the referee. As you may say, I'm sure you're going to referee this one, but then I looked at my notes, and Robbie's the ref, and I forgot.
Yeah, Robbie's the ref. That was, the board of directors went over my head on this one. I tried to block that one myself. Both guys are, in my opinion, I know you disagreed with me earlier. In my opinion, these guys are number 1 and number 2 in the area. From, Nashville on over. I'm going to go on a shoot and say these two top guys right here are number 1 and number 2. There's also, a couple other guys, that's thrown in the midst there.
Oh, yeah.
But, from my experience and mine being in the ring with, a lot of guys, these two guys are my favorite two guys I like being in the ring with.
As far as momentum is concerned, I would definitely give Chase the edge. And, wrestling is a lot about momentum and the hot streak that you're riding coming into town. And Chase is, winning matches left and right. He's wrestled in Ring of Honor. Chikara nearly became the junior heavyweight champion of the NWA. And, as far as momentum is concerned, I do give that edge to Chase, and he is probably, I would say, go ahead and say, yeah, he's the number 2 guy right now. And a lot of it rides on momentum, like I said. But Kincaid's, no doubt, the number 1 man. When you hold a title, the top title of the promotion, you're definitely the number 1 man. And then he proves it by going to Mexico, defending the title numerous times down there, defending the title numerous times in the United States. That proves right there he's number 1, but it's a battle to see who's the best, and who walks out with the title is the best man. I don't care who it is. If Chase Owens walks out with that belt, he's the best. Jason walks out there, he's just going to keep on proving why he's the number 1 man in the area. But my argument a minute ago was not to bury Chase 10 feet under and saying that Menace, is better than him. I think as far as, experience and veteran skill, Menace has, a lot over Chase Owens. But right now, as of momentum-wise, Chase is definitely on that hot streak, and I think is in good position to capture